Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to either the second episode of Touristas or the second part of the first installment. I would like to operate under the impression that it'll become a series and people send their things in and I can drive them and tinker with them and do all those things. But either way, it is the second appearance of this gentleman who came in all the way from Missouri, and seeing as he went through the problem of making that trip, I drove about that full, I would say I drove the full 1300 pack. I made little changes here, made little changes there, fell forward, fell back, did the little tweaky bits, and didn't really document any of it. I was going from a sort of trial and error position. And basically where I arrived at is here. Let's get the cursory stuff out of the way first. It made the journey across this land. So we took off some of the stance bits, and I had recently purchased a VRD carbon purely for parts with no intention of building it into a VRD. And then I used all of the plastics on a ZRD chassis to build a Crawler Canyon Class 1.5. I put the gearbox in one of my flat rail 6x6 builds and had the chassis rail still sealed in the plastic bag left over. So these are fresh. It drops, gotta get on board with me. It drops a full 2 ounces from the weight of the vehicle. There is, is there an advantage? I don't know. It's just now, people will think it's a straight axle carbon, which is pretty cool. I lengthened the rear upper links about 4 millimeters, I want to say, to get what I believe to be a proper pinion angle. At no point during the sweep does the drive shaft drop below the high clearance links. Link positions are largely unchanged. I attempted to dial in more anti-squat. I tried the lowest hole, the middle hole, and the upper hole on the rear uppers. And with this tire, maybe because of void to lug ratio, maybe because of some other X factor, it really didn't like it, which is just difficult to figure, but I guess not completely out of the question, because if we want to talk about different things that are similar, this is the Phoenix, who has a bunch of the Phoenix plastics attached to a VRD, and I am indeed in the lowest hole on this chassis. I think what it was is, in my head, I was thinking ZRD and not VRD, when I tend to be like, so this is a 1.5. This is the one where all of the plastics from that kit got installed. And if you'll notice here, we are in the all the way forward uppermost hole. And then we are on the lower hole on the axle because of axle separation based on tire height. We need to be tighter together for a class 1 tire. So I think in my head, I had this geometry a little more figured. So when I was doing tweaks to the VRD, the geometry is not precisely the same. They are similar, but different. So when I attempted spacing, and also, if you need any proof that the VRD, well, the VFD was never intended to four-link, look no further than the placement of this screw, which is actually directly, so these bottom 2 holes, I get you, maybe if you went to a very thin hollow ball and mounted the screw from the inside with the nut on the outside, you might be able to use those 2 holes, but in a conventional situation, you might be able to change the drive shaft to something that's narrower, might fit with the incisions, I don't know. But we end up in the upper hole in the front. I would have liked to have been in the middle hole, I think, but most of the changes that I made, I found myself going backwards. The owner sender in said that they like low slung And I don't like to be, in general, I don't like to be as low slung as this thing sits, but in no configuration that I tried did it really get any better. So I pivoted my intentions and I said, if we can sacrifice as little of the forward drive and the climbability as possible, and instead just bring aboard some ability to descend, because this thing does not descend great in the configuration that it came with. It was definitely the weakest tool in its toolbox. It side hilled well. It did all of those things. So as we sit right here, the links, we generally pretend that this is bring me the horizon. Pretend that this is the horizon. So you've got rear links, skid, upper links. These things are imaginary. Imagine these things. And ordinarily, this is the ground and this is the link straight across. That's what I'm trying to set up. If you could see underneath this gentleman right over here, you would see that his links are basically straight across. And because he is portaled, the difference in clearance between skid and surface is tremendous. This thing is just a hair under 50 millimeters at the lip of the skid, and I'd like to be right about there. But here's the deal. This is what we're talking about, static weight, and how the springing on a crawler is really about managing static weight. It's not about providing a tremendous amount of resistance to articulation, because we're talking about a 0.8 pound spring, and the force, the leverage force on it is going to be significantly higher than the spring. I don't believe in full droop, what do they call, negative spring suspensions. I don't like bands. I don't like any of that, because they are, to me, antithetical to tuning. If you just say, oh, well, I'm just going to slap a bunch of hair ties around the front axle and it's going to strap the front axle up and then it's going to keep the axle from rising on climbs. Yes, it will keep the axle from rising on climbs in exchange for a complete loss of front end compliance. I feel like a lot of tunes that I see on this place we call the internet often involve how steep, how much of this angle can I get? They don't care about this angle. They don't care about this angle. They don't care about that angle. How much of this can I do? Like, how much can I go straight up? When in my, we'll call it limited experience of doing this, you spend maybe the smallest amount of time just going straight up. So when I'm doing a tune, I'm taking a holistic approach. I want side hilling. I want ability to descend. If anything, ability to descend is one of the most overlooked tuning aspects, which is why we've thrown just 2 O-rings on the front, just to add a little bit of preload to help keep the front end up a little higher. Because angled skid bonk is not great. Skid bonk will destroy all forward momentum when climbing, and if descending, will tend to just detach this from the surface which it is attempting to remain attached and send you cartwheeling forward. So carbon rails drop 2 ounces. I did the usual Canyon thing, a commonplace operation here, which is decapping. We're decapinating, which is, I would like, while working on a vehicle, because I also, in a build, I think about things like service. If I have to replace something, if that VFD pin pops out and I have to pull the VFD out and pull all the gears out so I can put that one pin back in, it's more of a twin problem than it is on a VFD. If I have to do that, how many tool changes do I have to do? So the way the VRD comes is almost entirely button heads, except for all the bolts on the gearbox are still socket head cap, so you'd have to switch from 2 to 2.5. It's not difficult if you've got boxes around to just switch them all out to button heads. So this vehicle is entirely button heads. You do 2mm for the whole vehicle, except for these. Traxxas has tiny little short M2s that have 2.5. They use a 2.5 driver. And I dug the bins to try to find 4 of them, and I could not. So I gave up and I moved on. Here's the honesty of it. If you're not going to change yourself from VRD to ZRD and bring in the tuning options afforded to you by a ZRD, because the rail that is on there now, here is the rail, but this is aluminum. Well, let's turn it around so it's aiming the right way. So this is what we'd be looking at on the rail. You have 5 rear upper mounting positions, 3 front upper mounting positions. What do we got? 7 and 9 for shock mounting positions. Now, if you're on a ZRD, you've got 2, 4, 7, you got 7 rear, and they're in a cluster. You've got the exact same honeycomb in the front, 7 in the front. And then in the rear, you've got 10 shock mounting positions, and in the front, you've got a whole bunch, looks like 15. And the geometry is shifted. There's a shift in the geometry. I think that the ZRD is superior geometry, but I don't believe it is the answer to every question, because these won't be in the same spots anymore because the towers move. So if you're planning on building something, I think starting from the ZRD is a great way to go. Converting, would I convert this from VRD to ZRD? Well, probably not, honestly. Now, the sliders are much better. I mean, it's kind of worth it for that in and of itself. But because all of your shock mounting positions are moving, and therefore your body mounting positions are moving, whatever body you have now is not going to fit. So this guy, I have a, and here's why I ran through that in my head. I have a set of ZRD rails in my rail drawer, and I contemplated for a few moments about installing them, and then went, no, we're not going to do that because it's going to take too much work. So I tinkered with shock positions, I tinkered with link positions, pulled the entire gearbox out, pulled all of the gears, cleaned all the gears, re-greased them, reassembled with all of the new screws, reset the pinion mesh, did all of the usual things that I would do in a run through, cleaned it, did the usual thing. Most importantly, corrected that rear pinion angle, importantly for me. But in terms of setup, I mean, we're talking about, do you want to run this hole for shocks or this hole for shocks? We're talking about minimal tuning changes. And what I got to, where I arrived out on the rocks and where we're going to arrive out on its second and final run on the rocks is this. In this configuration, I believe that this tire right here is a PSI enjoyer. It is something along the lines of like a G8 style tire. Think Toyo, not a Swamper as much. Trep. A lot of those tires, due to lug to void ratio, they enjoy greater ground pressure on the tire. And I don't think this vehicle can generate enough ground pressure to really get the full zazz out of this. Because who is fitted with these? Why, of course, right there, it is the Tranquish. You'll notice similar kind of width. They should be very similar in wheelbase. They have the exact same wheelbase. Wheel track is going to be real close. 255 in the millimeters. That's a cat hair. Just got a cat hair in my mouth. And this one is 255. The difference being, this guy still has all of the plastics from a VS410 with the full skid, the whole deal. Twin TRX4 axles. This guy has got, at minimum, a pound on this guy. Probably closer to 1.5 pounds. And runs a very soft insert. The rock block in my usage, appears to be a tire that enjoys that PSI, and it needs that, like, can we frame them both? Look here, and then look here. It needs more static bag. And in an attempt to see if they even have this, they even have the same wheels. In an attempt to see if this was the case, I grabbed another couple sets. I grabbed a set of straight up just tusks. These are tusks on factory OE provided inserts. And then I grabbed a set of the good old Baja MTZ, which you'll notice we keep changing lug to void. If you look at these three guys, well, no, it's got to go this way. It keeps getting not a lot of void, a little more void, a lot of more void, right? And firmest, softer, unquestionably softest. Now, with this guy dragging belly the way he does, these are going to give us the worst clearance. These are going to give us the second one. These are going to give us the best. That's just how that works. So you know what I think we'll do? Do you know what I think we'll do? I think we'll take this guy out and we're just going to run him around. And to satisfy my own curiosity, we're going to grab the bag. We're going to get a little cobalt bag. We're going to grab a little cobalt bag. We're going to throw in these guys. We're going to throw in these guys. We're going to throw in the wrench, and I'm going to grab a battery and a controller, and I'm going to grab our man, the Tranquish, and we're going to run, we'll do a little side-by-side, and then we will pop, we'll do swippy-swappy, and we'll put this tire insert combo, which is Canyon Custom Softs, on here, and these are 3D printed of some order or manner, and we'll swap those over. I think what is holding this guy back ultimately is the same thing that holds almost every build back ultimately when you get into that last 5%, which is we say, I've already spent X number of dollars on tires. That's my tire. And I have learned somewhat long ago, don't marry a tire. Absolutely don't. It was the Ghost Rover episode where someone asked me, do you think holds or tusks would be better in this scenario? And at the time he was running tusks. And sometimes I feel like the tusk is the answer to every question. And I put the holds on it and it was transformative to the performance of that vehicle. It was better in every aspect on those holds than it was on the tusks. And that is a situation that really shines a spotlight on there is no perfect tire. There's the perfect tire for that build, but there is no such thing. Like, you can't just buy tusks, and that will be the answer to every question, because there's going to be another tire in another situation that comes along and goes, look how good I am at this. And part of this is figuring out which one is that. So I didn't even realize before I turned all the equipment on that I was in a position to determine, is it the rock block that it just needs more PSI than this vehicle can generate? Or is the Canyon Custom Soft just too firm for the rock block on this vehicle? Or does it need something really squishy? So if nothing else, the man from Missouri, who I'll be shipping this back to him in a box of, the cardboard situation here is untenable. We'll be shipping this back in a box of my choice very shortly. I do not want him to deprive him of access to his own vehicle for too long. He will at the very least receive this. He will receive his vehicle back with some carbon rails, courtesy of the Canyon, and a little bit of insight into whether or not he just either needs to change an insert, change a tire, something like that. I will give advice as best as I can. So out to the rocks we go. We're going to go as a duo. The visitor, the Tourista from Missouri, and our old man, the Tranquish, Chunky. We're going to head out there together, and we're going to move some tires around, and we're going to see what we can do. Because honestly, let's be honest, I had completely forgotten any specs or anything about the rig when it was sent in. And I was, you're hoping it's going to be bad. I was hoping that I would have more to do, but I did not, in fact, have more to do. So, instead, I just made a little bit of tiny corrections that I would ordinarily make, and I tinkered around with positions, and it's going to be going back to him almost indistinguishable from the way that it came. And hey, it's not all bad. Like, a win is a win, regardless of how it comes. I would like to amend to say that on the carry out, too much stuff to drive. On the carry out, the Tranquish is significantly heavier than this VRD. Well, straight axle VRD. See, we can get right through, I imagine these are going to be very different driving experiences. Get that right there. I mean, it is low input speed. So we can just kind of settle. Get through it with some throttle. There's a little bit of imprecision. And why I believe this is just not, well, rather than what I believe is we're not generating enough ground pressure. Because take into consideration, same tire, much heavier vehicle. Once we get, not fit, between 30 and 40% heavier. I know lightweight always is a movement, but the difference on the down. That's the real notice. I genuinely believe the single biggest holdback for the Tourista from Missouri is the rock block needs more weight. It needs more focused weight than it's getting. Let me see if I can just go at it exactly the same. We'll go front tire, mini bean right there. I'm doing no steering inputs. I'm just seeing where the tires are taking it. Now I'm steering. So we got a little shuttly. It is a fairly tightly spaced lug, so getting a little shuttly is sometimes a thing that happens. We'll go samesies. 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 There we go. Oh. Yep. Now I look like an idiot. Good. Well done, Missouri. Didn't want to get on. This is why I don't subscribe to the periodical known as Lightweight Always, because all other factors being equal, is being lightweight an advantage? No, I don't believe that it is, because heavy has fudge factor. It's got margin for error. It has, well, we don't need a letter specific tire insert wheel. Like, everything doesn't have to be just so. Now there is a point of there's a point of diminishing returns going in both directions. Too heavy is bad. Too light can be bad at the very... What overdrive am I in? I was in big that whole time? Oh. So mind you, this is now 6.5% overdrive. So it wasn't the performance of the tire that made me look like an idiot. It was me not looking down at the toggle switch to realize everything up until that ascent, the Tranquish had been doing at 46% overdrive. So, yeah, there is definitely a PSI thing. There's definitely a PSI thing. Luckily for us, again, little sweet spin move there. Luckily for us, it's 8 lock nuts. I feel like I've helped this. If I've helped nothing else, I feel like I've helped this. They are. They are to a point where I would absolutely not say, "Oh man, you got to get those things off of there, bro." I think that they're just, for me, they are almost, and now for something almost completely the same, the most subtle tire swap that I think the Canyon has ever seen. Gunmetal brushed lip turbines with J-Concepts rock blocks up against black chrome lip turbines with J-Concepts rock blocks. So this is the 3D printed insert in the rock block. I'm going to guess that the change in compliance is going to very nearly be enough. It's green. It's green. Ooh. So I'm ordinarily one to say that the 3D prints have as narrow of an application window as any other style of insert. I want to say that the Tranquish has run Canyon Customs before. Notice there's just little slips, little bits of slips, which is what brings me back around. I think it's a rock block. I think it's a rock block. I don't think I'm running. No, I don't think I have run a Canyon Custom in a rock block. I think it might be a little too firm because there's so much lug. You need a softer insert. Now I feel like on this combo, Tranquish is now in that closer percentages. Man, he has the quietest twin in the fleet. Yeah, the rock block is... I've made this mention in other videos before that from J-Concepts, if you look at the tires, there's a Venn diagram there. And in one big circle of the Venn diagram is the tusk, the megalithic, and the rupture. Basically, just put it on something works, right? Works to some, usually to some higher degree. I put the rock block in the other bubble with the hold, the hunk. So hold, hunk, rock block. Ooh, maybe the Boss Man in terms of being more application specific. And then there's a third column that has the Bounty Hunter, the Scorpio, the Fling King. You have tires that are incredibly applicationally specific. Like, they will work on one thing, and if you swap them to another rig, you go, oh, what? That's a thing. The bounty hunter loves PSI. It's a tiny little thin tire that wants a tremendous amount of force exerted down across the top of it. And I think the rock block, based on the amount of void, it kind of likes that too. So when we get to a much more squished out insert, the rock block on this gets better. Would I say that this rig could get away with just swapping inserts? Honestly, based on this, I would say yes. So I hear one or more people say, so when is the Canyon Custom the answer? And my response to that would be a lot of the time. A whole lot of the time. We run Canyon Customs at least a dozen rigs in the fleet, maybe 15. And there are always at least 2 sets up on the racks, because when initially setting up a vehicle, it's real easy to just throw a set of customs in it. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking it a little bit. I'm thinking Tranquish is real close to Canyon Customs. See, this is 46. Get that little hop through there, drop it down to 6.5. And I can feel that rear tire drive a bit more. Is the Tranquish a Canyon Custom guy? Or is he better suited on those 3Ds, which were chosen at random? He's probably better on the 3Ds. Well, let's see. Let's see what kind of effort we require. Let's look at it on the descent with the softer insert. Better. Comes through here, no lift. Come up on the entry. Little hesitation. Much smaller. I wouldn't, this is not 100%. Whatever that 3D printed insert is that's inside that rock block, it's not 100%. And or, more accurately, the combo is probably not 100%. And this is the thing of it. This is what gets you down a path where you start with 1, and then there's 2, and then there's 4, and then there's 8, and then there's 16, and on and on and on, because you got your rock blocks, and they are very nearly so good. All I want to do is that right there. Little fallback. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't you do it. Keep it down. Keep it down. You get that tire and it's so close. And where I've gotten to at my point now is don't fight it. Don't fight the being. It being what it is, right? The rock block, maybe, just maybe, the rock block wants something else. It wants more weight. And I would not advise adding weight to it. Is more inexpensive and more easier to just change the tire and or change the insert. I think the ultimate answer is probably both. I think the owner of this will probably end up doing both. Make sure I'm back in small. If you take a math test, the greater the number of questions there are, if you just keep yelling 42, eventually 42 is going to be the answer. I'm not saying that the odds of a rock block working are that low. I'm just saying that they are not the answer to every question. I don't believe that on that straight axle VRD. I don't think they're the answer. It's too light. It doesn't produce enough PSI. So they are on the cusp of very good, but do we not all? Is it not our goal to achieve great? You see this right here. This right here. Use your eyes. This is what I don't want. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that from a tire that has a 3D insert. Yeah, can we manipulate our way out of it? Yes. I want easy mode all the time. I want to continually, religiously quest. I want to get my hat. I want to get my whip. And I want to go on an endless pursuit of the crawler's paradox. I want to get to a point where the tire is so good and the tire synergizes so well with all of the other componentry that you keep trying to find something harder for it to do and harder for it to do and harder for it to do. Which is why do you see me at the same location? Why do I hit the same spots? Because finding that synergy, finding that magical collaboration of componentry where it just moitas, it's not easy. There is no universal answer. No combo has ever shown itself to be like, I am the universal combo that works in every situation. The Tusk is a tire that works really well pretty much all the time. But it is an answer. It is not the answer. I want to say J-Concepts Green is the answer. Because there's probably a tire in the line for just about every fitment. Right there. Right there. Did you see it? It wasn't in frame for long. I will try to go hup when I see it. We got stability. I didn't get to do my hup, but there was a micro moment there where we got grab, and it was going to pull round that center cut, and it was going to pull us over the top, and then all four tires simultaneously just kind of slipped right there. Trying it in 46 now to try to back to 6. Try to keep us down. There's a bit of rebound there. EVA is going to rebound a little bit. Oh, this feels better. Softer insert. Are we going to pull? Are we going to pull? Well, it's shooting wide left. Right up over. Come on, baby. That's what I'm talking about. So, is it a problem? No. It can be solved with money. And if it can be solved with money, it's not a problem. Now, what does our descent look like on these? Oh, it's going to get to the rough part here in just a second. Nice and slow. Little cutaway. Come on, guy. There we go. It's better. And it's a little counterintuitive. You would think, well, much softer insert in the front. It's going to over-collapse that front. We're going to go head over heels, as they say. I think my little bit of preload helps a little bit. Can we breach on? Get a little bit of that side lug involved, a little side lugular involvement. Yeah. I wish that the answer was not always throw megs at it. But the answer is often throw megs at it. And I know why people don't want to. They're hideous. Anyone who will try to defend the J-Concepts megalithic by saying, I don't think they look that bad. No, they really do. I never know if it's Geiger or Giger, H.R. Giger, with his erotic, his strangely erotic horror art. The guy of the art behind Alien. I find the lug pattern on the megalithic to be positively Geigerian. But, you know, regardless of how strange the hieroglyphic pattern might be, hieroglyphic patterns work, right? What we're saddled with here is attempting to translate to scale. So there's always going to be a little bit of a shortcoming in any translation to scale. This is a correctly executed Mickey Thompson Baja Boss. It is nevertheless a Mickey Thompson Baja Boss. So there's going to be a performance compromise there, a sacrifice for vanity. Small. We clicking. We've shifted from big to small a couple times now. We clicking. Pop, 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 pop. 46 was nice over that. Got that extra little bit of pull. The rock block also, it should be noted, not a stellar dig tire. Tires, any tire with a lot of directionality to it, by and large suffers as a dig tire. And the rock block is not only directional, but it's asymmetric. So it's good at a lot of things, but it's not remarkably good at dig. It can, surprisingly, and this is a surprise to me at least, handle pretty big torque splits. So it's as comfortable at 6% or 20% or 25 or even 40. It does pretty well. And there are a lot of tires out there that you give them those big numbers and boy, do they fall off. They absolutely collapse under those big underdrive, overdrive numbers. So the rock block is a valid answer. It is not a valid answer to every question. Do I believe that it is the ultimate tire for the Tourista from Missouri? I don't think it's the ultimate tire. Do I think that with a nice, soft, 3D printed insert that it will be beyond acceptable? Absolutely. That's what it is now. It has a random, non-tuned, non-vehicularly specific 3D printed insert on a tire, on a combo, which is, largely the same, but nevertheless borrowed from another vehicle. And here's what it is. Tranquich looked pretty good on that left-hander, right? It's all trickery. It's all trickery because there's a nut located behind the wheel, sitting behind the camera and the microphone by extension, that has driven that particular vehicle. Not that one, but that one. A whole lot. And he's driven this obstacle a whole lot. And he built the obstacle on which he's driving. I can make a tire look pretty good by extension of knowing how much throttle to apply in a particular point. I know, but I don't want to see what we can do at the absolute butter zone of throttle. I want to see that tire collaborate and cooperate with the other parts in the chain and do work, right? I don't want to drive to the tire. I want the tire I want the tire to be the guy. And oftentimes it isn't. And sometimes the best answer to that, the solution to that problem is change the tire. I think the Tourista from Missouri needs little more than a change of insert. A nice 3D printed insert in there. Or something, I wouldn't do so. It's 3D, I would go 3D. The foams with the stiffener, the 3D printed stiffeners on the sides, maybe. I would probably just go 3D printed. That is up to the gentleman who was kind enough to send it in. It is up to me to thank you so much for joining us here in the canyon. Thank him for sending it in. Give them all a shout out for sending in. Thank you so much, everybody. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. And in between now and when we meet again, please, one and all, do your very best. Have a good one, everybody. We end this one with Tranquish upside down, and I don't think it could be more perfect. What I need to do really is remember to swap the tires around before I ship it back.